What's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop. Welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're essentially just going to fill your gourd with all kinds of information on what's going on around here.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the CRT channel. I'm John Cope, and today is Saturday. Remember last week I ordered the wrong pickup tube. Dumbass mistake on my end. So I got the correct one from Milidon, and we got it on, and the bead of weld is so close to the bolt hole where the bolt goes. The nut is going to be hard to tighten in. So you definitely can't use a washer. And because it's a Hemi, it's metric and not standard. So I took a stud kit or a stud for the E4OD oil pan, put it in there, and I had to put the nut on upside down. I Loctited it, it ain't going nowhere. So we got that on, got the oil pan on. Then we put the motor mounts on. These motor mounts are killer nice mounts. I got them, I don't even remember the name of the company, but I thought they were in Canada because it took a while to get. They've been sitting in the back of the Power Wagon or on my parts shelf for a while. And the motor mounts, we got them on. I figured we'll put the mounts on, get the motor in the chassis with the empty transmission case, and then have the headers out, get those mocked up, and then figure out where we're going to put the bottom part of the mounts that are going to be welded to the K-member. So I said, well, Lucas, I go, let's put those headers on first and see how they fit around the mounts that are on the block. Well, there's no way they're gonna fit. This header right here is right where the 4 bolts are for the mount, and it's not gonna fly. So the K-member, the original bracketry that comes up on the K-member that's welded on there from Chrysler, I grinded those off a long time ago, and I always ran motor plates in all my bed block 440s and stroker motors that I put in a Cornet. So we would have to weld those to the K-member, and I saw, where I'm going with this is I saw factory mounts, or I saw aftermarket mounts with those TTI headers, long tube, in a B body that would go to the factory mounting parts that are on the K-member, but I whacked those off years ago, so those are gone. So that's out, trying to use those mounts. The mounts that I have, those are out, not using those mounts. So I think I might be back to going to a motor plate, which I really wasn't against motor plate, but seeing how this is going to be a drag and drive car, I didn't want that plate between the water pump and the water pump housing, bumpy roads and stuff like that. So I thought these mounts here were solid, but they did have a rubber encasing in them. I thought, well, that would be better for drag and drive, for driving it on the street. So right now, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I have to look around and see what other people have done with those headers, which I hope I'm focused here, because this camera's been fighting me ever since I got it. The more high-tech stuff you have to make a video, the more things can go wrong. I mean, everybody has TTI headers and everybody loves them, and if I had a 440, I would never use them. because you can't get to the plugs, you can't get to 3 of the bolts on each side to put the headers on, and they hug the transmission so tight to get to the shifter cable adjustment would be difficult. And I already see that's going to be difficult with these, because what they do is, most headers were straight. Like, I ran hookers my whole life, and it was a nice header. It fit good. I got to all of the spark plugs on my 440, no matter if it was the Dash 1 Indy heads or the 906 heads. I never had a problem getting to the spark plugs or there was only one bolt behind cylinder number 1 that was a little bit tricky to get to. And the headers would go straight back to the back of the chassis, straight back. These headers are tilted in. And I know why they did that. TTI did that so if you bought their exhaust, it'll go around the 2 humps in the frame by the cross member much easier than trying to make that bend with the hookers. So I understand why they did that, but they're not transmission friendly. On a Gen 3 Hemi or a 426 Hemi, it's not too bad because you can get to the header bolts from the bottom really easy, but it's still, those headers still wrap around the transmission, and I'm just gonna have to live with that. You know, if you have a shield or a blanket or anything like that, it really makes it for a tight fit. So what I'm probably gonna do is, because you can't get CSR shields from the manufacturer, I haven't had one here at the shop in 3-4 years. I finally just took them off the website. I'm probably just gonna get a blanket, and I actually learned this from Larry Boyd. He would put the blanket and he would open the blanket, put it on top of the transmission, and affix one side to one torsion bar and the other side to the other torsion bar. So legally, you had the blanket on there. It was between the driver and the transmission, and so the safety part of it is there. I never looked in the rule book, said if it had to be wrapped around the whole transmission or you just had to have a blanket on the car, the way they worded it. I have billet drums in the car anyways, or will have billet drums in this transmission. Ain't nothing gonna ever explode, but I get it. There's rules, you have to go by the rules. So that's what I'm gonna do with the blanket. And that way, it's not gonna be in the way of my shifter linkage and the cooling lines and the neutral switch and all that other stuff, much less dump valves and dump lines. So I'm on a hunt for mounts or a motor plate. I really don't want to go to a motor plate. I'd rather not. I'd rather have mounts going to the factory locations, but I have to see what's out there. If not, I have to fabricate some, and that's going to take a while for me to think about how all that's going to go. Boy, is that truck leaking. We put a front seal in the transfer case. I'm gonna have to show you this. Put a front seal in the transfer case and a rear seal in the transmission because it was just barely leaking. And now we have a puker. That is transmission fluid. The shoemaker always has holes in his shoes, right? Or the transmission builder's always got leaks on his transmission. So I can't put the motor in the Cornet until I figure out something on what we're gonna do with the mounts. So that's where we're sitting at the Cornet. I actually took the hood from upstairs and threw it on there just because it hasn't been on there. And I've been carrying the hood around for 20 years. We had a customer come pick up his transmission. Some of them, you may know him. His name's Chris Mills from he's from Busted Radial Garage on YouTube. If you would like to see what he's doing with some of his Mopars, I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel. We built him a 727 small block, and we put a billet drum in it, and steel planetary, and a bolt and sprag, and a deep pan. It's basically a reverse manual valve body. It would be my Pro Race 727 with a billet drum added to it. And he's put it in his Cordoba. I think it's a 78 Cordoba named Homer. And I got, Chris came here a little bit earlier than what we planned, so I didn't pull out my camera. I kind of wanted to pull out my camera and talk to him a little bit online, on film. And I didn't do that. I just, in the morning, it was super busy and I was getting orders done. But I did find time to sit down and talk with Chris about what he's got going on with the car. Homer is going to be like a burnout car, and I think he told me he's got like 30 events to go to. I don't think I've been to 30 events in my whole entire life, and this guy's going to do them all in 1 year. I mean, bravo to you, my friend. If you got the time off and the resources to do that, man, go for it, Chris. Such a nice guy. Good people, good American, very nice guy. If you want to go check out his channel, it's Busted Radio Garage. Just put that in the YouTube search or click the link below in the description, and go check out his channel and see what he's doing. He's got some really cool Mopar stuff, and he's got a blower on that small block, and it's going to be wicked. So at 30 events in the United States, there's a very good chance that Chris is going to be at your home track in some type of a burnout contest. So make sure you check it out. Good people, good channel, Busted Radio Garage. Now we're going to switch over to a little Ford stuff. When Tim's truck, which is we're going to call it a Lightning for all purposes, even though it's an F-150 with a Lightning motor in it. When he originally brought the transmission to me, or the whole vehicle to me, what I did is we took the transmission out. I put my homemade test prototype valve body in there that we had in the plow truck. And in the plow truck, everything worked fine. Lockup turned on and off. The trans brake, all the shifts was great. The plow truck was an E4OD. This truck is this transmission is a 4R100. There's very slight little differences. And one of the biggest slight little differences is the E4OD lockup is either on or off. It clicks on, it clicks off, which most every single lockup has done it that way until lately in some of these, what I would call later model vehicles. In the 4R100 has a different style lockup. It's called a pulse width modulated lockup. And basically, in layman's terms, all it does, instead of just turning the solenoid on, that oil goes to the lockup valve strokes, and the lockup turns on. Instead of that, what it does is it pulsates or modulates the lockup valve really fast, so it can only have maybe like 80% lockup or 40% lockup, or it's why they would want to slip that clutch, I don't know. But that's how that is designed. So when I put my valve body in there, I also used an E4OD solenoid pack, which is on off. So I was kind of hoping, and I've never done this, so I had to find out for myself, that the E4OD solenoid pack in a 4R100, that the lockup would work on and off. Well, it didn't. I'm like, okay, Transco makes a valve that converts the pulse width modulated to on off, and then you can use any solenoid pack you want. And when I read this, I'm like, oh, that's great. So I talked to Robert at Transco just to verify. He's like, he gave me insurance, John, you can use any solenoid pack you want. I'm like, okay. So during all this time, when we were test driving Tim's truck, the converter broke. Just making sure we're still rolling. From us hitting a high mileage bone stock converter on our trans brake, it broke. We had to tow the truck back. So we towed the truck back, and by this time, I had the billet valve body here. I did have the Transco conversion lockup valve here, and I had a brand new torque converter on the way. So I'm like, okay, everything's gonna be great. It worked just the way it is supposed to, except when we were testing it, the lockup didn't work at all. So I was like, I was scratching my head. I'm like, what the heck? So just to reinsure from Robert, I'm like, are you sure I can use an E4OD solenoid pack in 4R100? Yes, John, I told you that once. I'm like, I'm sorry, okay, I'm just checking. So I'm like, all right, well, we pulled the transmission out, thinking maybe somehow or another the lockup valve was stuck off, or maybe I installed the valve wrong and it wasn't, everything was fine. Put it all back together, still no lockup. I'm like, what the heck's going on? So it was a Hail Mary. You know, I already talked to Tim, and actually Tim was supposed to be here yesterday on Friday to pick up his truck to go to Michigan, so next Friday he can go to Florida for a race that he has. Well, the truck is still there. I was gonna like, listen, let's throw a Hail Mary at this. Maybe the solenoid pack that I have been using for whatever reason isn't working. So I got another rebuilt solenoid pack. We threw it on there and the lockup's working. I'm like, oh, great. Tim's racing this truck. He's never gonna use the lockup. He might drive it on the street once a year and then use it. But with a single disc clutch, we're not gonna use the lockup to go down the track. So there was only one problem. When the lockup came on, it wouldn't shut off. And I thought, okay, we got a short somewhere. It's grounded because it works through a ground circuit. Unplugged the wiring, lockup's still on. Shut the truck on and off a couple times. Dropped the pan, can't see nothing, put everything on there. Looked at the solenoid pack, put the pan on, lockup is always on, always on, always on. So now I'm racking my brain. Now I had to call Tim and say, Tim, we got a problem. We got the lockup working, but it's working too good. You can't pick up the truck. We have to take it out. Or, I'm sorry, I already had it out. I had Billy Brew rip the transmission out. We pulled the converter out. I'm like, all right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the input shaft and stick it in the converter. And if I can spin the input shaft freely, then the clutch ain't on. But if I spin the input shaft and the whole converter on the outside is spinning with it, then I know the clutch is on. And that's exactly what happened. I put the input shaft in there and I'm spinning the input shaft into the turbine, and you cannot hold the outside of the converter and spin the input shaft. I'm like, well, at least we found the problem. It's the converter. So I sent it back to PTC, and they ended up telling me what happened was, which they said it happened. They've seen it once before, but it's a very, very rare instance where the torque converter is on the welding machine and it's going around, and the welder is on the side, that some slag got inside the torque converter, and all those slag pieces, which he said there was a lot, were in between the clutch and the cover. So I would imagine once that applied, it just wouldn't unapply. I don't know. I don't know what that inside of the converter looks like. So they're gonna have it fixed by Monday. They're gonna have it shipped to me by Wednesday. By Thursday, we should have it installed, test drive, and done. Now, if the Ford gods are with us, then everything will be fine. There will be no more issues. Tim can come here Friday morning. He's going to pick up either Thursday night or Friday morning. He's coming down here fully loaded with his truck and trailer to pick up his race truck and go straight to Florida. So nothing like having a little pressure on you, right? You're making sure everything is dead on. The guy's going to be in Florida. So that's what's going on with the Ford. One more thing. The widget came in, and it's right here in my pocket. It took the U.S. mail to get this thing from Connecticut to Indiana. Was it 8 days? But you can get a Sally's Pizza shipped to you overnight by UPS. So that just shows you the difference between government shipment and the free enterprise shipment. I'm not saying that UPS is the greatest thing since sliced bread, because they're not. They fucked up too. All right. No one guessed this. I would have never guessed it in a million years. Lucas would have never guessed it. But here it is. This is a plug to go where the neutral switch is, if you don't want to run a neutral switch. Now, when you don't run a neutral switch, you have to run one in your shifter. For your safety, for everybody's around you safety, so you don't reach in the car to hit the key and it's stuck in gear, the thing fires up and it takes off. A lot of race car guys do this. And the reason why they do this, well, I'll tell you Randy's reason why he made this was because he couldn't find a neutral switch that didn't leak. This is what Randy told me. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I think I've seen these somewhere, but it was a limited production run, and I did a look and I couldn't find them anywhere. So they'll be on the website. I don't even know how much they're going to cost. I think it'd be much. So if you don't want to run a neutral switch, and remember, this will fit any rear-wheel drive torque flight. It'll even fit the 404 front-wheel drive Neon 3-speeds, but it won't fit a 48. But actually, it will. If you use the Transco adapter, no, the Sonics adapter, where you take the, they don't call it a neutral switch on a 48, the 48 RE. They call it a range sensor. If you take the range sensor out, then unscrew the adapter, there's a plug to convert that over. Then you can put this in there. But it will not fit a bone stock 48 RE. So Randy's right. So no one won the hat, but that's what the part is. The little widget, the mystery widget from Randy, all the way from Connecticut. So, well, I think that's it. I've babbled enough. I found a 71 I found a 71 Fury in Mississippi. I was gonna go get it, but then and it was clean, and it was only like $7,000. It did need a paint job, but it was a solid car, at least by the pictures it was solid. But I was like, I got enough cars. What do I need another junk laying around the shop for? So I passed on it. But I really wanted a Sport Fury. So I don't know, maybe if I get sick of Haney, I'll sell Haney and get a Sport Fury. I don't know, we'll see. All right, I think that's it. I'm done babbling like an idiot. I don't even think I got any jokes to squeeze in here. I usually kind of like to squeeze in a couple jokes. I like to get a little laugh out of you. See you in the next one. Mopar to you. Bye.